Welcome to Resilient Minds 365, where we discuss the resilient stories of entrepreneurs, professionals, and students with mental illnesses to encourage you to strive, thrive, and live in abundance. I'm your host, Cleoni Crawford. Welcome to another episode of Resilient Minds 365. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I know I am, and I'm your host. It's Cleoni Crawford here again. So I am here with a special guest with us for the show. Her name is Neelu Kaur. Who is Neelu Kaur? Well, Neelu Kaur is a corporate facilitator, leadership and NLP Neurolinguistic Programming coach, and stress management specialist. She holds a BS from NYU's Stern School of Business, an MA in social and organizational psychology from Columbia University, and is a certified NLP master practitioner and coach from the NLP Center of New York. Neelu has 15 years experience specializing in adult learning and leadership development in large organizations ranging from financial services, consulting to the tech industry. She's a certified yoga instructor. Cool.
Yeah.
Ayurveda Specialist,
Yeah.
and an Ericksonian trained hypnotherapist focused on bringing mindfulness and stress management practices to individuals, teams, and organizations. So with that said, I now present to you Neelu Kaur. Hi, Neelu. How are you doing?
Hi, good. Thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem. So tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you got started into your profession.
Yeah. So a little bit about what I do. So my work is at the intersection of leadership and wellness. And so prior to COVID, I had very separate clients. So clients in the leadership development space where I would do a lot of group facilitation. So it was anything around, managers managing people, fast feedback, like all of these classes that were related to leadership development. And then I had separate clients for mental health, mental well-being. And then COVID happened. And all of those clients, those large organizations that I was doing communications training and all these other leadership development trainings were like, help us because we are in the middle of a crisis and catastrophe. So my work has really been over the past year blended in a way that I could have never imagined. I think before COVID, it was like separate worlds where I had different clients in wellness and mental health, and then different clients in leadership development. And so my work looks like group-led classes, and also I do a lot of individual coaching.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how did you get started into what you were doing?
Yeah. So after my master's, I was working for a large company. And then in 2013, I got downsized, and I was doing a lot of training and coaching in that company. And I got downsized in 2013. And I thought to myself, I'm never going to have someone tell me they don't want me anymore. So I said, I have to figure out how to do this, like really figure this out on my own. And so I've done different things. I've explored different paths. And so now I am a solopreneur, and I bring on people when I need them. So if I do very large engagements or very large classes, I bring on other facilitators, and then I have people that I've been coaching for a number of years. But yeah, I was really determined after I got downsized that I was not going to get downsized ever again.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Understand that.
Yeah, because that was like at that time, that was like my third downsizing, or maybe even fourth. I can't even remember. I've been downsized so much. And so I said, this is it. Like I have to take control of my life and of my mental health, because that was another thing that was really challenging. I found myself working in these organizations that just were not healthy. They were very toxic environments.
Yes, they can be. Corporate culture can be quite toxic at times because of the peer. It's like high school all over again sometimes.
Absolutely.
Some workplaces can be just like that stressful place where there's the pressures to keep up, and it's just a lot for some people.
It is. And I think for those of us that are in underrepresented communities, it becomes even more because it's very much like in group versus out group. And I find like very cliquish dynamics. And so I know things are changing, and I hope that they change in organizations. I know the organizations I work with, they have, active measures to make it a more inclusive space. But I think over the years, I have been in very toxic environments. And so I wanted to have more control over my life and my livelihood. And
Mhm.
that's when I decided to figure it out on my own.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's do that route.
Yeah.
Definitely good for your mental health. Definitely
Yes.
mental health, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, with that said, we're gonna deep dive into the interview about the mental health piece of your life.
Sure.
So I'd like to know, what is your mental health diagnosis and when were you diagnosed?
It's so interesting. When I was reading this question, I said, diagnose. I'm very big on linguistics and the way we speak to ourselves. So I don't diagnose myself, and I've never diagnosed myself. So when I experience panic attacks or anxiety, I don't say I'm an anxious person. I say I'm experiencing anxiety. Or if someone tries to diagnose over the course of years, when I did go to different therapists, it was like, oh, you're depressed. Well, no, I just am experiencing sadness. So I'm very cautious about the language I use with myself, and then yet languages I use with other people. So when I did have debilitating panic attacks, I knew it was a temporary thing, and eventually I would get through it. So
Yeah.
I tend to not diagnose myself, and I'm really, an advocate for others to not label themselves as I'm an anxious person or I'm a depressed person. It's more like, no, you're experiencing this in this moment, and there's things and tools that you can do. But I think linguistically, we can be more empowered if we are not so quick to diagnose ourselves.
That's interesting. Because they do say, there's power in the tongue, that
Mhm.
you speak certain words, you're speaking life over yourself. So I guess it's by saying that you have a certain illness or whatever, it's like you're speaking it into existence in a sense.
Exactly. It's almost like even if you are doing just fine, you have it in the background playing, like this song that's always playing in the background that, oh, I'm anxious. No, you're not anxious. In this moment, you may be anxious about something, but you're not an anxious person.
Right.
So
Understood.
and again, it doesn't work for everyone. For me, it has helped me. And when I'm coaching other people, I give an invitation, like try this out and see if it makes your experience a little different.
Understood. Makes sense. Makes sense. So tell us, so when did you first have your first panic
Mhm.
episode?
Yeah. So I think it's interesting because I've been on a few other podcasts where that was a question. I really can't remember back to when. I just remember that even as a child, I've experienced a lot of anxiety. I just always felt like I didn't belong wherever I was. And so I think it started really early, but the actual memory of a panic attack was probably around 20, let's see, maybe 2005.
Okay. Okay.
So that's probably my first like adult memory of like a full-on panic attack.
Ah, I see. Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So you said they were quite debilitating. So maybe you can walk us through your mental health story of resilience, like how you were able to transform from having, panic attacks,
Hmm.
debilitating and were affecting you, to where you are now, where it's
Mm.
a bit more stable.
Yeah. Yeah. So at the time, I just felt like I couldn't breathe. I almost felt like I was sinking, like almost like quicksand. Like you just can't get out of this feeling of like so much uneasiness within myself. I know many people describe it very differently, but I almost felt like I just couldn't breathe. Like I was like, I'm sinking and I can't breathe. And so I don't think there's one thing that works. I think it's a whole host of things. And we have to, use ourselves as an instrument to figure out what works. So in 2000, when this first happened, I then was referred to someone who I still am in contact with over the years, who's a therapist I work on and off with, like not a regular, I don't go to therapy every week, but every time I need to speak to someone, I have this person in my life. And I've had her in my life since 2005 or four.
Okay.
And so I think, figuring out that your network is really helpful. So who can you rely on that can help you? And then also for me, movement and somatically changing my state really helps. So whether that's me walking, because I walk a lot, I exercise a lot, or yoga, or different practices of Ayurveda, it's been a learning process for myself to figure out what's the recipe or the cocktail that's going to help me. And
Mhm.
because I've seen my mom, who's been on antidepressants for so many years, I was determined to not take medication. So I figured out holistic ways that work for me. But again, it really depends on the individual. For those people that really feel like they need medication, absolutely. I was just, given what I've seen with my mom, I was determined to not have that happen to me. Like I don't want it. I didn't want to go down the same path that she's gone down.
Understood. Understood. Okay, so do you currently still have debilitating panic attacks?
Yeah, no, I actually don't. But, there's moments when something happens where I feel a little bit of anxiety or something's uneasy. And so I just know that I have tools to help me. So when that happens, I know what I can do. I can go out for a walk, can get some fresh air. I can practice yoga. I can use all of the breathing techniques that I use when I teach yoga and use them with myself, right? So you have to figure out, each person has to figure out like a cocktail that works for them. And to me, I think over the years, I've realized there's not just one thing that works. Then there's no one magic pill that you're going to take and you're going to wake up and say, oh, I feel amazing. For
Mhm.
me, it's never been that way. It's a host of things.
Okay, cool, cool. So you did mention you have your walks, you mentioned yoga.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some things that you had to do to overcome or bounce back from your lowest points? Can you list everything that was
Hmm. My lowest points. So for first and foremost, support from people that can be supportive. So whether that looks like a therapist or a very good friend or a parent or a sibling, like whoever that is for you, I think having a support network is really important. So when I'm looking back or thinking back to some of my low points in life, I would absolutely say a support network, and then just faith, like faith in yourself that this is a temporary situation. So a belief that this is temporary and you're going to figure it out. Like ultimately, I think we're so quick to look to external things to say, okay, this is going to solve this problem. But I think knowing that you have all of this wisdom within you and figuring out how do you find the tools to access that wisdom.
okay, cool, cool. So what are three things you wish you had available when you were at your lowest point?
What do I wish I had available? I think I wish that I had at that time more resources. So it's been a trial and error process. So when I was going through it, I really felt like I was on my own. I didn't feel like I had the support. So it was sort of this journey that I went on. And if I could go back in time, I wish I just knew what I know now, because then those low points wouldn't have been as low given what I know now. So the knowledge, the resources, and just the support network. I really, in my lowest points, felt so alienated. And I think if I had that, it would have helped me get through those points quicker.
Okay. So we have you basically, so of the three, you have the knowledge,
Hmm.
the, was it the support system, and
Yeah.
what was the third one? I forgot.
What was the third one? Just the faith that you're good, that it's temporary. Because I
Right.
think when we're stuck in a place of dis-ease, it's like we feel like this is going to last forever. So just
Mhm.
reminding yourself, like, hey, this is just a temporary moment and it will pass.
Okay. So what's the next question that I wanted to ask you? Actually, yeah. So based on your experience, what words of hope could you give to our listeners? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that there is no magic pill. And unfortunately, in the society that we live in, if you go to the doctor, they just want to throw a pill down your throat. And there are so many pills out there, there's so much medication. And again, I'm not saying it's bad. If you need it, great. But there's no one magic pill that's going to make you feel better. It's an inside job. And so the goal is, if you struggle with experiencing anxiety or feeling sadness and you don't want to feel that, then it's like figuring out the cocktail that works for you. So is it movement through your body? Is it deep breathing? Is it to join an organization that gives you support? Is it to, get more aligned with your spiritual practice? Like there's so many different things we can do instead of just thinking that there's one solution, because I don't think there's one solution.
Mhm. And when you would have your panic attacks, considering that you also mentioned that your mother
Mhm.
had I guess it was anxiety attacks as well.
I don't I don't yeah, I would say I've observed some panic attacks, but I think over the course of, I would say, 30 years, she has been suffering from depression
Oh, depression.
feelings of depression, sadness, feelings of anxiety, feelings of despair. And
Mhm.
so she's been on like a cocktail of medications. And with all of these medications, there's so many side effects. And because we're all so complex and individual, it's like she might feel good for a short period of time, and then there's these long-term side effects. So having observed that over all of these years, I was like, okay, this is not the path for me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So when so as a child, when you were going through what you were going through,
Hmm.
would you feel that you had the support for someone to understand that um that it wasn't temporary, that like was mental health something that was spoken of in your home? Was
Hmm.
that something
Hmm.
that
Yeah. Not at all. Not at all. I think, again, it depends on cultures. There's certain cultures where it's almost like it's swept under the rug, or it's non-existent. And I think I'm Indian. So growing up in an Indian household, it was like, you don't talk about it. It
exactly.
doesn't exist. It's just in your head. It'll go away. Of course it's in our head, but it's like, it's not just going to go away. So yeah, so no, it was not an open dialogue. And also I didn't have the language to know. As a child, I didn't know what I was experiencing was anxiety. Like I didn't know because I didn't have the labels. I just knew I did not feel good. And it
Yes.
was only as I got older, and you get older, and then, this is where the labels can be empowering or debilitating. Because then if I was told early on that I had anxiety, I probably would have led a very different life.
Mhm.
Right. But I didn't know. And so I figured it out, that this is what it's called, that I'm experiencing anxiety. And so the labels can be helpful, but I also think they can be debilitating if you take them on as an identity, like as an identity of an anxious person.
Mhm. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So we are actually going to take a switch
Okay.
in this interview a little bit. As you can see behind me, there are some books where it says "The Music of My Life,"
Mm-hmm.
and basically that's a book about my journey with mental health, with bipolar, and music therapy, and how that
Mm.
helps me as a coping mechanism.
Mm.
So, with that said, we're going to talk about music therapy a little bit.
Okay.
So, what type of music do you like?
Okay. Yeah. So I like a lot of different genres of music. I think on a daily basis, the type I listen to the most it's called chill electronica. It's on Apple, it's on Amazon. So I will just I'll just tell Alexa to turn on chill electronica, and she just lit up. So the music is very just soothing, instrumental, just very calming music. That's what I listen to on a regular basis. And then if I want to change my state in any specific way, if I want to have more energy, I might listen to music that falls under like dance, or so it just depends on what state I'm trying to get to. Like if I need more energy, if I am exercising, then I will use more upbeat music.
Right, right. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. All right. And if you were to think of a song that best describes your journey, what you've gone through,
Mm.
what would it be and why?
Mhm. Hmm. Yeah, so this is such a difficult question because there's so much music and so many songs. I think there's there's a couple that I can think of over the course of the years. I think the one song that is just the lyrics just stand out in my mind is "I Will Survive." And I know it's an oldie but goodie. But
Yeah,
that one, it's like always like I just know I will survive. And so I don't even know who sings it actually.
I
Because
think it's
it's
ABBA.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who the originator was, because I think there are many artists that then took that song and did other things with it. But
Yeah.
I always hear those lyrics. It's like, I know this is temporary. I will survive. So that's one that's kind of been through the backdrop of my life all these years. And I think the other one that I recently came across that I just put on when I just want to uh, change my state. It's actually called, I wrote it down. It's called Walk, and it's by Saucy Santana. I don't know if you've heard of it, but
Fantastic.
it
Oh,
just makes me get up. And also because we're on Zoom and we're seated a lot, like this song just makes me get up, even if I'm walking around my apartment. I'm like strutting around. It just changes my state. And so, yeah, so I think music is really helpful to change your state. So depending on what you want to do, obviously when I'm teaching yoga, I'm going to use more calming music versus if I am outside briskly walking, I'm going to use different type of music. So I think depending on the state you want to be in, the music choice is helpful for me.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
What about you? What do you use to lift your spirits?
Well, there's one, my favorite song is actually from Pharrell Williams, Happy. I like that song.
I love that song.
I remember when I was going through a depression, I played that song like literally for 1 whole month straight, back, just to kind of program my mind to let me get to a place where I thought, okay, yes, I'm going to be happy. I want to be happy. This is the life that I want. You know what I mean? I was trying to reprogram my thinking because I was depressed. And yeah, so that's one of my favorite songs. But normally I like a lot of old school, like Motown, 80s, 90s. Music of the 80s and 90s, and gospel music and gospel rap and gospel hip hop and stuff like that. So that's the kind of stuff I like. I have a very eclectic style as well.
Yeah.
A lot of different types of music, but yeah, if I could definitely find myself listening to some like, Motown and 80s and 90s music.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. Like the 90s, specifically the 90s, I love 90s music. So that just lifts my spirits. Even if I have no memory of, what was going on at that time, it's just 90s music just lifts my spirits.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's really good era. Like it's a really good time for music around that time. The music was much more meaningful to me. I don't know, the music today is not as poetic.
Right.
So
that's a very good way of saying it. Yes.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't have as much it's not as deep. It's not as deep as the music of the past,
Yeah. And so when I feel that happening, I just listen to the beat and I don't pay attention to the lyrics, because the lyrics to me are just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
But the beat, I'm like, oh, like this Saucy Santana song, I want you to check it out. It's the lyrics are whatever. It's the beat. It lifts my moods.
Okay, cool.
So when I know the song,
Santana.
Yeah, when I know that the lyrics are not resonating, I'm just like, you know what? Maybe it's not the lyrics I want to focus on. I just want to focus on the beat, the movement, and start moving around and dancing or whatever I need to do. Yeah.
I will totally check that out right after this interview.
Yes. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So Neelu, how can we stay in touch with you? What are your social media handles?
Yeah. So I'm most active on LinkedIn. That's where my audience lies. So just under my name, Neelu Kaur, I have my website, neelukaur.com. And then I'm also on Instagram and Facebook under my name.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so very much for being a guest on our show today. It was very enlightening. That's the word for today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So with that said, and to all you resilient minds out there, until next time, please subscribe to us on all our platforms, and don't forget to rate the show and leave a review for us on Apple Podcasts. Also, join the community of resilient minds and sign up for our monthly newsletter at cleonicrawford.com. Be sure to grab a copy of my book, The Music of My Life, on all Amazon marketplaces to get to know me better. And if you can think of one person that will receive value from today's show or connect with Neelu's testimonial, please share it with them. Feel free to take a screenshot of this week's episode of the podcast and tag us on Instagram. You can tag myself at Only Cleoni or Resilient Minds 365, and today's guest at Neelu Kaur. And remember, mental health is not a death sentence. Despite your illness, you can strive, thrive, and live a life of abundance. Until next time, I'm Cleoni Crawford, and I'm signing off.